Okay, so we voted on, I need Amy, honey, I need you to go to the other side. I need you to make sure you're staying in your space, especially without a mask on because you're eating. Okay, second graders and first graders, put your listening ears on. You guys got to vote on what you wanted our next chapter read aloud to be, and you guys chose All Rise for the Honorable Perry T. Cook. And this is kind of a fun book. We talked about a little bit of what goes on in it, so you guys could decide which book to vote on. Do you guys know what it means, like All Rise for the Honorable? Do you know, like, when that's usually used? Anybody have an idea? Does anybody watch a lot of TV with, judges and people go to court? Okay, sometimes you're grown. I thought maybe your grown-ups would make you watch a show with them every once in a while. No, you always get to pick the shows. You guys are lucky. I never got to pick the shows growing up. Anyway, when it means all rise for the honorable, when you go into a courtroom, the bailiff or the people will say, all rise for the honorable judge, whatever. And when the judge comes into the room to sit down, everybody stands up out of respect. I need Max to show me and your class some respect by not chit-chatting during our discussion, okay? So it's a sign of respect because they are a very powerful person, the judge, and they've done a lot of hard work, to get where they are. So they'll say all rise and everybody stands up, just like when we stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. That's a sign of respect for the flag of our country and for the pledge. So that's they're kind of playing and making it sound like he's a judge or something. All rise for the Honorable Perry T. Cook. Okay, so we'll see kind of if that connects as we read this story. While we read, I want you guys to remember how when we read Charlotte's Web, we talked about the characters, we talked about the setting, we talked about, kind of the narrator who did most of the talking in that book. That was Wilbur, right, who did most of the talking as that main character. And so we'll talk about how that goes in this book. Sometimes it's done by an outside kind of narrator, and other times it's done more specifically through one character. Like, I thought this, I thought that. Anyway, so there's a quote at the front of this book. Even people with dark pasts can show a softer side of their soul in the presence of innocence. Kate West. Okay, so I think that's going to connect to what our story is about. Okay. This is written by Leslie Connor.
That's my aunt's name.
Yes, your aunt's name is Leslie. But okay. Chapter 1. Remember, chapter books have many sections in them called chapters. They kind of break up the story a little bit, so it's not just one big chunk, so it's kind of broken up into sections that kind of all go together. Chapter 1. Teeny tiny Surprise, Nebraska. Big Ed is about to tell again. He greets all the new ones. He sits down, tells them about the place, and gets to know them as quick as he can. Being a welcomer is part of his work at Blue River, which is the biggest thing you'll find in the teeny tiny town of Surprise, Nebraska. Big Ed asks, "Are you from around here?" The new resident shakes his head. "Oh, so good to see you, Miguel. Hi, come and sit down." The new resident shakes his head no. He sets his dinner tray down across from us. The answer is almost always no, because Surprise is a long way from most places. "You know why they call it Surprise?" Big Ed asks. "It's because this little nowhere Nebraska town gets an impressive amount of snow. But the snow is not the surprise. What you find after it melts, now that's the surprise. Things you never knew you lost. Right? So Luis is going to say we're going to find all of his crayons out there once our snow melts. Right, Luis? That's the surprise, but we know that they're under there. Of course, I'm talking mostly about folks on the outside. Here on the inside, well, most of us have nothing left to lose. Or it can feel that way. Big Ed laughs. He sounds like a harmonica. Then comes the coughing. He has to pull himself together before he can go on. But spring comes, and on the outside, they find all sorts of things. Baseball and dog bones, the favorite pair of gardening gloves all flattened down in the mud and grass, maybe even a set of keys. And don't we all wish we had keys around here, huh, Perry? Big Ed gives me a nudge. I almost spilled my milk. The new res, that's short for resident, listens nicely enough. I wonder how long he's going to be here. Maybe not so long. Depends on what he did. Depends on what's been decided. Sometimes I hear, sometimes they tell me. I never ask. Big Ed tells the new guy, you see so much snow outside these windows, it'll make you forget the grass is green. He always pauses for several seconds right there. Then he says, unless, of course, you're doing a cat nap. A cat nap means a short stay. Big Ed leaves a little airtime, waiting to see if the new res feels like talking. He might tell him about his sentencing. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. The guy dips his head like he's talking to that bowl of turkey chili on his dinner tray. I got 8 months, he said. He doesn't say what he's in for. Meanwhile, he keeps eyeing me. Big Ed claps a hand on my shoulder and tells the guy, this here's Perry T. Cook. I put my hand out. The guy just waits. He looks to the right and he looks to the left where the supervisors are standing. He knows he's being watched and he's trying to figure out what he's allowed. There are rules about contact. Handshaking is okay, I tell him, as long as it's brief. Big Ed says, you can listen to Perry. He knows it all. I push my hand closer to the new res. Last try. Finally, we shake. Name's Wendell, he says. I don't know if he means that's his first name, last name, or only name. Mom's rule is I can call the adults whatever they tell me to call them. But she wants me to add Mr., Mrs., or Miss in the front end. For Big Ed, well, I just added Big, and I guess nobody ever corrected me. It was such a long time ago. He's the only res at Blue River who's been here longer than Mom and me. What's a kid doing here outside of visiting hours, the new guy wants to know. I call him my morning sun, says Big Ed. It's an old story. Perry makes sure we all wake up on time. The kid will be here in the morning? Mr. Wendell looks confused. New ones always do until it dawns on them that I live at the Big River Co-ed Correctional Facility here in teeny tiny Surprise, Nebraska. Right? Do kids usually live in a prison or a jail? No. So now we want to know what's kind of special about this kid, why he got to be there. Okay, so far, who are the characters? Who are the characters? The kid in jail, what's his name? Do you remember? Right there on the title, Perry T. Cook. Right? But he goes by Perry most of the time. He's not always going to go, my name's Perry T. Cook. Right? Who else is a character?
The Yeti.
The Yeti? I don't know what you mean by the Yeti. Can anybody help her out? I don't think I heard anything about a Yeti. We talked about there being a lot of snow, but that does not mean that it was a Yeti. I think maybe you're confused because his name is Big Ed. So because we talked about snow and because his name is Big Ed, that we think he's a Yeti. He is not a Yeti. He is a human, okay? So we've got Big Ed. We've got Perry T. Cook. And then who's the new guy they're talking to? Come on, pay attention. Ears on. Wendell. Does that sound familiar? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hayden, we've just said his name like 3 times. So, yes. You say, oh, okay. Got it. That's the guy they're talking to. From behind the serving counter in the kitchen. So right now we see, oh, they're probably in like a cafeteria looking kind of thing. In my mind movie, I'm imagining it like a cafeteria looking thing. Go talk to Mr. Squatrito. Please don't interrupt him. We hear Eggy Mon dishing up the last trays of supper for the evening. Okay, now we know for sure it's nighttime, right? He thinks all food deserves poetry. Tonight he calls, get your gobbling good order from the south of the border with a hunk of cornbread or white rice instead. So the guy serving up the food likes to add a little poetry every time he serves it. Mom comes by with her tray in hand. Perry, down the hatch with that milk, pal. She sounds impatient, and she has left more than half her supper. It's strange because she doesn't waste food, and the turkey chili's not that bad. I take my milk carton in both hands and gulp it back so fast my throat aches. Bad manners. But Mom needs me to move along tonight. Something's up with her, and I don't want to add to her trouble. Neither does Big Ed. He gives a pat on the back and says, good man, Perry. So Big Ed, the human, not the Yeti. Right? Earlier that day, Warren Dougherty called Mom into her office for a conversation. Whatever that was about, it put Mom on a tilt. Now it's one of those weird days and everybody knows something's going on. Everybody but me. Now, does that mean that Mom's actually on a tilt? No. But what they're using, you need to go wash your hands, sweetie. What that means is that it kind of put Mom on edge. It put Mom in like a weird mood. Do your parents ever have a conversation and then sometimes that puts them in a cranky mood for the rest of the day or kind of a weird mood? Yeah. A lot of times too, if it's with somebody important or scary. I bet that happens to you guys too, right? Every once in a while you have a conversation and it just puts you on a bad mood. And that's what they're using the word tilt to describe right then. It kind of puts you in a weird mood. It kind of tilts you off your usual feelings for the day. Okay, does that make sense? All right. We have to do one more look at that map of the middle school with you before lockdown, Mom says. She glances at the gray clock on the wall, and so do I. We have to pay attention to time at Blue River. At 9 p.m., I have to be in my bedroom next to the warden's office off the Upper East Lounge. Mom has to be in her room down at the end of the hall on cell block C. So in my brain and in my mind movie, right, I'm making those predictions. What's happening? What did the warden talk to Mom about? Right? What are they going to do in the next chapter? Because that's the end of chapter 1. So what is going to happen? Let's see. We might have a little bit more time to start chapter 2. Let's see how long it is. Oh, it's not very long. All right. So chapter 2 is called All Rise. Right, when she talked about that refers to where you go in and you see the judge and everybody has to stand up. You okay, bud? Oh, man. It is 6:23 a.m. I scoot forward and put my lips close to the microphone of the prison PA system. Do you guys know what a PA system is? Let's listen and see if we can figure it out based on what it says. If not, then we'll have to talk about it. But let's see if we can figure it out based on what the text says, because that's a skill we need to know. I always begin quietly. Warren Dougherty comes up. comes to wake me every day, and she's gentle about it. So I do the same for all the residents at Blue River. Good morning, I say in a slow, low voice. This is Perry at sunrise. It's Tuesday, the 6th of September. If you need a reason to bother getting up today, well, it's probably not the weather. He goes, tut, 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 like, it looks like rain. That's the quote of the day, coming from Christopher Robin, by the way. And if you don't know who he is, then maybe it's time for you to get some literature in your life. Mrs. Buckmuller and the Bucking Blue Bookmobile will be here to restock the literature or the leisure library from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And don't forget, she takes requests. If you're talking back there, Jaya, you need to stop. I glance at Warren Doherty. She smiles as she leaves through the stack of paper. She likes it when I give literacy a plug. When I give literacy a plug. The clock on the wall at her desk, above her desk, reads 6:26. I lean in towards the mic again. The news on the outside is it's the first day of school in Butler County. That means I'll be gone all day. Don't miss me too much. The good news for all of you is waffles are popping out of the toasters down in the cafe. Scrams are in the pan. They're even letting some fruit cocktail out of the jar. Choice of beverage, as usual. Remember, there are no knives in the flatware trays at Blue River, so get used to that sport, however long you'll be with us. I lean the mic away and whisper to Warden Doherty. The last part is for the intake, the new intake, Mr. Wendell. She whispers back, I'm sure he will feel most welcome now. She points to the clock without looking at it. She doesn't need to. The warden is so precise you can almost hear her ticking. 6:29 a.m. Time for me to get louder. I grip my hand on my mic like I'm about to fly a plane. Okay, residents of Blue River, if you're not up by now, time to get up. The finish has to be big. It's the same all day. I take a deep breath and bellow, all rise. So in this case, he means instead of all rise as in to see the judge, it's all rise as in all wake up and rise for the day. I turn off the mic and head towards the door. So do you guys figure out what a PA system is? So he's talking into a mic, and we know, even though he's in the office, everybody can hear him. So just like the announcements that they do in the morning or when they have us all stand up and do the pledge, right? We all stand up and do the pledge. It's usually Mrs. Gonzalez up in the office who's doing that. She's all the way up in the office, but we can hear her here because of the PA system. All right. So if you haven't figured out what a PA system is, now you ought to know. It's that, the box and the clock up there that they speak from, and they talk into it all the way up at the office, but we can hear it here. So he's all the way in the warden's office, but everybody in the whole prison can hear him because he's speaking into the PA system, into the mic. What, Luis? No, not like headphones. Like it's a microphone. Like when you guys see people on stage, like in a concert or something, you might turn on, or even like a karaoke thing. Like trying to think, there's like a video games that you've got the karaoke that you sing with. Okay, that's a microphone, and you speak into it, and it makes your voice loud for everyone to hear. Or in a PA system, it puts you into the speaker where everybody can hear you. Have you guys ever heard too when you're shopping in Walmart or Winco or something, they might over the loudspeaker over the store that everybody can hear, and they might say, would the store manager please come to the front of the store, or clean up on aisle 27, right? That's another PA system, okay? It's an announcement system. Are you guys getting it a little bit more now? Thumbs up. We're getting a little bit better. Okay. Okay, good. All right. I see. Okay. We just got a tiny bit left of this chapter and then we're done. Thank you guys for being patient and doing this along with us. I turn off the mic and hustle towards the door. I stick my head in the hallway and listen for morning release. 6:30 a.m. Locks disengaged. Doors click and creak. Toilets flush and the residents yawn themselves awake. Foreman Joe is coming up the hall from Block A, which is one of the men's wings. Good morning, Full Joe. I started calling him that when I was little. Ours tripped me up when I was first learning to talk. I used to call myself Pawie. How's things, I ask, but I don't really want to know. Not right now. Fojo knows it. Things, he said slowly. Well, let me see. I chew the inside of my lip and I wait. He's being slow on purpose. Things are fine, but I'm wondering what they fed y'all for dinner last night. Was it burritos? Because he stops and pinches his nose and fans the air. This morning, Release had some fire in it. Turkey chili, I tell him, with beans. Then before I can go on and on about that, I remind him, hey, Fojo, it's the first day of school. Oh, yeah, he said. Thus the new sneakers, hey? I look at my feet. Can I go, I ask, to school? Fojo, he knows what I want. I'm already facing Block C. I'm crouching in my runner's stance, but I have to wait for permission. It's one of the rules. Fojo, please. Harry, he says. Yeah? Are you still here? I am not. I am off like a flash, sprinting towards Mama's room at the end of the hallway on Block C. And that is the end of that chapter. So we read chapters 1 and chapters 2 of our new book, and we'll have to keep talking about that and building on our knowledge of what's going on in this story.